referred to as a woodward type planer. And what makes this machine different than more modern planers that woodworkers are familiar with is the fact that the bed of the machine is stationary, and to control the thickness of the wood that you're planing, one moves the cutter head up and down through a crank mechanism on this side. Now, I'll also like to point out that this is a dog clutch here, and when this clutch lever is thrown, that turns the feed on, which makes these corrugated rollers go around and pull the wood through the machine. Basically, we have a set of corrugated rollers on one side, and the corrugations grip your wood, pull it under the cutter head, which is rotating once again very rapidly at about 3,600 RPMs. The cutter head surfaces the wood, and then on the other side there's a smooth roller which grips the wood and continues pulling the wood through the machine. This belt right here runs a pulley and gearing to power these two feed rolls. Now we're at the business end of the planer, and if I move this dust hood back, one can see the feed rolls. This is the outside smooth feed roll. In the middle we have our cutter head, and then we have our corrugated roll here. These rolls are driven through this pulley here and some gearing. So when I turn this pulley, both feed rolls will move in unison simultaneously and propel the wood under the cutter head as it's rotating. If you look down here, this is the ball crank. By turning this ball crank, you raise the cutter head up and down to control your depth of cut. This is the feature of the early planers, which became outdated by about 1870. What I have in my hands here is an example of a mortise and tenon joint. A mortise and tenon joint is essential to any good solid wood construction, whether you're building a barn frame, cabinet door, house door, or window. As you can see, this is called the tenon, and this rectangular cavity or hole is called the mortise. And one slips inside the other and makes an extremely strong joint. Now, in the 19th century, when woodworking machinery was being developed, great importance was placed upon developing machines that could cut these joints, since cutting them by hand was very time-consuming and laborious and required a person of great skill. Now, on this end, I have a mortise laid out, and I'll just briefly demonstrate how mortises were made prior to machinery. Prior to the use of machinery, mortise would be actually chopped in using what's referred to as a mortising chisel. And if you notice, this chisel has a very stout blade. Basically what the carpenter would do is hold your chisel on your layout lines and strike it with a hammer, move it over about 1/8 inch, strike it again, and just repeat this operation. Each time I'm striking this, I'm going in probably about 3/16 of an inch. You do this all the way across your piece of wood, then turn your chisel around, cut in the other direction.